The top 5 reasons I am not bothered by AI art. Before I start, I want to preface this with, yes, I'm a terrible artist. I cannot touch any of your favorites artistically. I say this to kill the ad hominem attacks that may come from doing this video. There being better artists that are being robbed, or rather, my art not being good enough to steal isn't the reason AI art doesn't bother me. Matter of fact, this leads into reason. Number 5. This is not the first time feeling replaced as a creator. New shows dropped. New movies announced. There is outrage because black dwarves and black elves exist in fantasy. Not only that, one of them fine-ass Bailey sisters is playing Ariel in Little Mermaid. The first criticisms you hear is, why can't black people create their own series or characters? Ignoring that this statement is just a dog whistle. Black people do create our own, but more times than not we are ignored by consumers, passed up for creators who do not look like us. Why this is? We'll get into that further into the list. For now though, I have a couple of questions. The most popular black character right now is Black Panther. Who created that? The most popular black cartoon right now undisputedly is Craig of the Creek. Who created that? I can name a dozen other examples of non-black people excelling in creations of black art, essentially replacing black creators, but you get the point. It's not my first rodeo. Which leads into reason. Number 4. This is not the first time we've been culturally appropriated. The history of art being stolen isn't new. Western museums house thousands of artifacts it stole from other countries. Some of those museums charge you to enter or sell merchandise with those artifacts adorned on them. Is that not art theft? Maybe that's too broad. Let's talk Picasso. It is very clear he stole his post-impressionism style, or rather cubism style, from African art. Art styles Africans been doing for thousands of years. Art he did himself, but clearly wholly influenced by Africans, to which he gave them no credit. How about using the entire American music medium? Trillions of dollars stolen from the hands of people who created the music, styles, and dances we love then and now. So, I'm used to feeling stolen from. So, seeing it play out in AI really doesn't bother me. Ethical or not. That brings me to reason. Number 3. AI art can be used as a fantastic art tool. While I can always take solace in going from this to this, I am still terrible at art. Yet, I still pick up the Apple Pencil and dabble in it as a hobby. Though I would rather it be my career. Drawing characters for my comic book, Judgment Day. Which is done by a superior artist. Often, I can imagine something but cannot get it on paper. AI helps with that. I don't have the privilege of free time to practice as much as I'd like to, so I have to get my ideas on paper ASAP. For example, I have a character, King Phoenix, who's a trans man who transforms into a pantheranthrope. That's essentially if a werewolf was a werelion. First reference I got of King Nix is because of AI. One of the other things I'm bad at is posing and consistency. I use reference pictures and doll programs like Magic Poser. The art comes out better than expected, but often it feels like it's missing some oomph. AI has helped me there. Did I tell you I have a bachelor's degree in animation? That's me. Terrible artist who got a college degree, but that can only help but so much. Which bring me to reason. Number 2. The art community's elitism and its willingness to gatekeep. When I graduated, I learned something almost immediately. The art community is a tight-knit space. The students who were close with professors got opportunities while others did not. Admittedly though, most of those kids I couldn't hold a candle to. So, I applied for over 50 art jobs around the country. Illustration, animation, graphic design, it didn't matter. I received 6 interviews. 2 of the 6 gave me a very peculiar answer, while the other 4, one ghosted me, the other made me do a test for infographics, didn't give me the job but used my art anyway. And the last 2 told me my portfolio wasn't up to snuff. I appreciated their honesty. Peculiar answers though are what stuck out. One told me you didn't fit in with our culture there. Now this company I didn't know much about, but their aesthetic was kind of upbeat and cutesy stuff. Almost like My Little Pony, and my style at the time was pretty dark and cynical. Though they didn't have an issue with my portfolio till the webcam interview. The other company needed sprites for something, a game or advertisement I recall. They outright told me they didn't think I'd excel in this environment. Now, I am willing to be nuanced and say me being black both culturally and in color had little to nothing to do with it. However, if I'm at the stage of the get-to-know-you interview chatting about our likes between art, music and hobbies. Excitedly, I kill my white voice, adopting my inner city accent, stating all my likes, which are heavily black culture. Besides gargoyles and Dragon Ball, in the interview are increasingly looking uncomfortable, and they follow up with, I don't think you'd be well here. About 10 minutes into the interview, I look at those rejections sideways. Keep in mind I was being interviewed by art directors. Both were artists themselves. To top it off, a dropout from my art college, the laziest mofo ever, applied for a job I applied for that required a degree, and somehow, he got the job. Yes, he was white and no, our art skill weren't far apart. However, art is subjective. This industry and community hasn't really been that great to be in. Therefore, art is a hobby now and ceased being a career choice because of those experiences. Experiences that aren't rare either. It's no secret that the art industry and community is a who you know operation. In recent years it changed to we'll give you a shot if you've gone viral or got a decent following on Twitter, but mostly still a who you know type deal. That's never sat well with me. I come from a best player get the best spot environment. Anytime I wasn't the best man for the position, I didn't mind being moved adjacent to it, or outright benched. That's not how this community works, so art differentials in talent mean nothing. So, to survive on purely your talent is a struggle. On top of this, artists in the community are cutthroat. They're willing to undercut, undermine, and throw each other under the bus for crumbs, and that leads me into the final reason. Number 1. AI art was inevitable. The very technology you're watching this on is a result of the same inevitability. Human curiosity, growth, and most relevant, greed. In this society we built up a culture that encourages the exploitation of the least fortunate. Companies look for the best way to up their profit margins. That usually means cutting out costs. For example, during the American Industrial Revolution, manufacturing jobs were all the rage, but once companies figured out they can make more money by moving to places where workers have little to no rights, then couple that with low pay, those jobs shut down here and left millions of Americans out of work. Sounds familiar, right? The potential of AI art is just that. Now, these companies can pay fair wages here and it be no extra cost to consumers. They just don't want to. Why do that when someone poor will do it for cents on the dollar? Sounds familiar, right? A hard-working, red-blooded American will say that's smart business. Well, that is the very reason why it was inevitable. Long as we allow that to flourish in our culture, worrying about AI art is futile. Like throwing rocks at a tank. Certainly, I sympathize with many artists that don't like AI art, as noted for me in Reasons 5 and 4, feeling replaced and robbed. I understand why certain artists would want to protest it too. My problem with it is simply, keep that same energy about everything even if it doesn't affect you. Artists want people to care we're being robbed but say nothing when it's happening to others in front of us. If it were our culture to actually care about others, maybe AI art would have been done ethically. Shoot, maybe even companies would bring in and pay artists for the use of their styles and intellectual property the way Instagram or YouTube pays influencers for their content. Some of these AI programs are valued at millions of dollars. This could have given more art jobs, literally just for producing art that machines can compile and learn from, but alas, it's about the almighty dollar. Like literally everything else in this country. It is inescapable, and it is kind of telling for me that the art community is pissed off now, but not at the many examples of stolen art embedded within our society. I wonder if our community ever realizes that the only reason ancient structures like the pyramids currently don't reside in the Western world is because capitalists haven't figured out a way how to move them. Most of the community do not, because they had the privilege of not thinking about this until it was already wiping its feet on their doormat. However, I have a sneaking suspicion the outrage has less to do with ethics and more to do with the rat race. Just by judging from the people who are heavily campaigning against it, but that's another video for another day. In conclusion, the state of art in its entirety has numbed me to the non-ethicality of AI art. Do I see it as wrong? Sure, it's as wrong as Eminem being considered rap god when his style is an amalgamation of various rappers including the god MC Rakim. I use hip-hop because it's my first beloved art form. An example for visual art nerds is Michelangelo sculpting David so that Hirohiko Araki could entertain us with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Yes, I just said that. Think about it. If you want a more boring but direct example, statue of David to 3D sculpting Kratos for the God of War game or a 3D printer. What I mean by this, I simply see it as another stepping stone, a tool, for the next generation of artists. It may even help some artists who don't have the privilege to conceptualize, create, and post art every day to amass followers. Sort of like a boost for artists, golden mushroom style from Mario Kart. So, I also see the positives amongst the overwhelming negatives that were already present in the world we live in before AI was here. It's hard to be bothered by this when I've spent most of my life witnessing this very thing play out in real time. So I just see it as one of the many obstacles already standing in my way.
Yeah. So there's other gods. I really hope we get a chance to see like European gods and stuff.